Hello, welcome into another episode of Food Meet Science. And today we're gonna talk a little bit about brown food. Because do you imagine that every kind of food that's a little bit brown, it tastes better? And we want to know why it tastes better, it smells better. And today we're gonna see what is behind this color, because it's still chemistry, it's still science. Today we're gonna test the food that we can compare in two directions. Something like just pale, like a bread, and brown, so already toasted. Also, as you can see here, this bread is super soft, yeah? And here we have something crispy. So we are going to compare all the food in these two categories. We are going to compare bread. Also, once again, our favorite vegetables, so onions, and also meat, actually chicken breast for today. Remember that this Maillard reaction is actually really happening during cooking, frying, maybe grilling. So we are going to test how the temperature can affect and when we see the moment of start browning. This is the chemical reaction that it's starting between amino acids and reducing sugar that we can find in our food. Contains this like potatoes, bread, also meat. What is happening during this reaction? We are creating the taste, also the color, and the smell of freshly toasted bread. You can smell it right now. You need to imagine that. This is also because of Maillard reaction. And what is happening? When we have the higher temperature, like more than 120 degrees or 140 degrees of Celsius, we have starting creating this brown color on the food. Normally, you can find the information that this Maillard reaction can start even in 60 degrees of Celsius, but you probably can see it in kitchen because this is too less that have the results of this reaction. And also, it wasn't happen always, because if you have high water content in the food product, or for example, you boiling, not frying the chicken breast, you also don't see this brown color, because the water between the surfaces, so between the food and the hot pan, for example, create a barrier, so this Maillard reaction doesn't come up, and you have just cooked chicken, not a grilled one. Firstly, soft and sweet. And now we're gonna see what's happening when we put it to the toaster. And the same bread, after toasting, you can see different texture because it's super crispy here, yeah? Different tastes, different aroma, and different color. So, what's changed actually? The heat was the only factor that we used using the toaster to toast the bread. And this is enough to start this reaction and change this component. So heat here just create the taste, the aroma, and the color of our toast. So let's go to the next experiment. And we're starting with preparing onions. And they are really interesting actually, because they can be made really soft without the brown color, and also super tasty and a little bit caramelized during the browning. So first of all, we start with preparing this onion just to slice it. Okay, we have onion ready, already chopped, so we can start our experiment. We have two frying pan and we're starting with adding some butter, because it's just the onion from the butter tastes better. The first one will be frying without addition of the lid. Not an addition, without just a lid. So normally fry on the pan. And for the second, you already have melted butter, so put our onion. In this case, we putting the lid. So two differences. Here we have the heat and we have like open space. So the water that it's inside the onion will be just going away in the air. And here, when we have a lid, we still have water inside of the product. So this will be prevent of starting of Maillard reaction. So we don't have this browning color inside of that. the reason why we don't have the brown color in the lid, it's because of the water. Water between the hot surface and the product will stopping the Maillard reaction. But remember that if we can see here on this frying onion, you already see that we have a little bit change of the color, so some kind of browning. Remember that this is not only the Maillard reaction, but also caramelization, because onion have a lot of sugar inside. This is why also happening the Maillard reaction. Remember the amino acids and also reducing sugar. And the caramelization also can little bit change the color and the smell and the taste of our onion. So normally it's happening to both of them, the Maillard reaction and also the caramelization. Caramelization is the process that also it's working with the sugars, and during the heating, so we still working with temperature, we are just breaking down the sugars. So we put some fat on our pan. Here we use the butter, but you can do the same without any addition of the fat. So on the dry pan, you also can see this reaction with starting. In Polish homes, we are doing it in every Sunday because we are making our typical soup, so it means rosół, and we just frying the onion to have the smell and color that adding to our soup.
A few moments later.
So to sum up, we have two different options. Here we have inside the lid. As you can see, we have really soft parts of this onion, as you can see here. They smell really gentle, and the taste will be also really gentle one, so the soft one. And here we have the fried one. As you can see, we have the perfect brown color inside of this. So we have the Maillard reaction and the caramelization option here also. Remember that this browning and caramelization can affect the taste. So here we have this more caramel, more intense taste when we're comparing this soft one during the lid. So now we are gonna check the meat, actually the chicken breast, and we're gonna test it on the frying pan without anything and with addition of oil. We're gonna see the differences with probably texture, probably the smell, and what our chicken looks like. So let's see. Here we add some oil. It's rapeseed oil. And as you know, we need to wait a little bit just to have the heat on this pan. And we're putting our chicken. And the same we're doing here on the dry pan. And as you can see, the process here starts faster and more intense with the boiling of chicken.
A few moments later.
So now we have already done with our frying chicken, and let's compare the differences. As you can see on the color and during this process, we can say that on the pan with oil, this Maillard reaction and caramelization came more faster. So the brown color on this chicken became more faster than on the dry heating pan. But do we have some changes inside? Here's the chicken. It's normal, not dry, it's quite okay. And the same here. It's a little bit more dry than using with the oil, in my opinion. But still, remember that during this experiment, we are just comparing this Maillard reaction. And meat is really good example here, because we have amino acid inside and also proteins that they can react with the reducing sugar during this reaction. And this is why we have this perfectly brown color on the grilled chicken. Do we have a huge differences? Actually, no. And remember that not using the oil, it's making our dish less caloric. Is darker always means better? Not necessarily, actually. Here, we can say that the Maillard reaction is really amazing. We create the flavor, the aromatic compounds that we have inside. But once browning goes too far, we have really darkened color. Also, the taste is more bitter than sweet and slightly browned. Here we have the harshness also with this kind of toast. If we smell it, it not smell like I want to eat it. Actually, I don't want to eat it. So saying that make it as dark as possible is not a good idea, actually. And the goal is just to build the brown color, but not the super dark here. Remember that the good browning is controlled by chemistry, but bad browning is chemistry going too far. Is the Maillard reaction actually true? Yes, we already saw that, yeah? Is this one of the reasons that the cooked food tastes better? Of course it is. It's not a kitchen folklore. It's just a chemical reaction between sugars, between amino acids that create the taste and aroma and also the color of our dishes. Remember, we create the perfect smell, taste and everything, but also during this reaction we can create some bad components that can influence on our health. For example, acrylamide. So it's like the toxic compound that it's creating during this Maillard reaction, and it can affect on our health. So remember, try to avoid eating a lot of frying things actually, and remember not to burning the food. Next time, when you start cooking something, frying on the pan, and this food starting have the brown color, pause for a second. It's not because justice happened. It's because you are just creating the taste, the smell, and the structure during this Maillard reaction. If you want to see more experiments like that, follow, like, and leave a comment.